My right ear's been kind of ringy lately anyway, so I don't think that helped. But anyway...
Did it help the situation?
No, it didn't. Welcome to Q&A in the Kitchen. Today we have a special guest. Sherry Sears of Creative Images in Des Moines, Iowa. You'll cut in like some good applause or something.
Right?
So, welcome to the couch.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think it would be fun just to kind of let people kind of know where you came from and when you came from there and where you're at. Kind of.
Oh, wow.
You know?
That's a big story.
Well, it is, but, we can get to the more nuts and bolts, but just so they kind of have an overall idea of maybe who you are before we get into a question so they can put in perspective your opinion a little better.
It all starts in 1980. Here in dumbass Des Moines, Iowa. Not a lot happening around here. Definitely not in the tattoo world, not in 1980.
Right.
I was lucky enough to meet somebody who moved up here from someplace else who was a tattoo artist, and he was nice enough to teach me how to tattoo. So I learned to tattoo in 1981. He did not really have a tattoo shop. He kind of worked out of his house and other people's houses, so it was kind of an informal apprenticeship.
Uh-huh.
And I was lucky enough that he had one foot in the old school, in the sailors and bikers and 50s and 60s kind of tattoos, and one foot in what was starting to become what we now call the tattoo renaissance.
Right.
Where tattoo just kind of took on a whole different art form and energy and all that sort of thing. And so I was blessed to really learn both worlds, because you have to know traditional, you have to know old school. You have to know old, and back then there was still a lot of old school tattoo artists, and there was a lot of shit you had to know about them because they were not necessarily nice people, and they would fuck you up given half a chance. So I was warned about all that stuff.
Right.
And but it was nice to just kind of learn in the new style and just kind of progress through the 80s and 90s and really just get into the modern era of tattooing, which is so exciting.
Right.
Because there's just everything. There's old stuff and
really
new stuff and kind of new versions of old stuff and old versions of new things and shit you never thought of, and people come up with crazy shit.
Yeah. Yes, they do. Yeah, every time I go to Instagram, it seems like I just want to quit.
When you see what everybody else is doing, and you're like, holy shit, that blows my mind.
Yeah. It knocks me down a peg or two, which is really good though. Because you never want to be satisfied. In my opinion, you never really want to be 100% satisfied with your work. You want to look at it and go, I could have done that a little better. Or it's going to get boring.
Well, yeah, and I think looking at other people's stuff, even though you feel like maybe you can't attain that level, but it does inspire you to do better. It's like, well, I can take this idea and apply it to something I'm going to do and make it just a little bit better,
Or even,
and that's fun.
And it kind of in a way it shows you what is possible. So it kind of shows you that, okay, I thought my saturation was really good. But then you'll see someone's saturation that just looks like, holy crap.
Right.
So it shows you that, okay, you can, I can saturate that better because, look, I know it can. So especially, we're all spread out. We have that. Now we're lucky enough we don't have to send letters of our stuff back and forth and say, hey, Kyle, I did this. What do you think? And then wait a month to get...
Well, and that is the nice thing, because, in 1980, we didn't, there certainly wasn't shows on television about tattoos.
Right.
They had just barely started having tattoo conventions. They had
when
just started
was your first one?
Conventions started in, the mid to late 70s, 76, 77, 78. They had a couple of conventions.
So they're just sprouting up right.
They were just starting to, because they were just formulating, the National Tattoo Association was just starting to come into play.
They're probably all in just a lot of the bigger cities too then.
So
were they?
Just one, they'd have one.
Yeah.
There's one a year.
There'd be one.
Yeah.
And that'd be
like
it.
the national or...
Okay, I see, yep.
Yeah, because, in 1980, in the whole state of Iowa, there was maybe 4 or 5 tattoo shops.
Yeah. Right,
whole state.
And
a lot of states were like that. Well, in some states it was totally illegal. You know, it was illegal in Oklahoma until just a few years ago.
Yeah.
How many?
You know?
So how big of a?
2006, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. How big of an operation was it when you went? Like now you go to them and there's hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people at these big conventions.
The first convention I went to was in 1987 in San Diego.
San Diego.
Oh, it was beautiful. What a great place.
Back then.
Yeah, back then. Where I was, my little corner of it when I was at the convention. But it was a pretty good sized convention, I suppose, at that point. And yeah, there's a tattoo floor full of people. And,
yeah, so it was...
You know, they were really up and going by then. By then they were...
So you had did you have people coming from Europe and stuff at that point? Or
yep,
was it, yeah.
Yeah, we definitely had Europeans and the Asians.
Right.
Were starting to come into play a little bit because in Japan, tattooing was very underground.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the Japanese tattooers were considered the masters of tattoo art.
Right.
Especially the masters of full body tattooing and how things lay on the skin and how things should move and flow. And their whole concept of tattooing was a lot different than the European sailor collector. I'll get one here and one here and one from this port and one from there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a totally different thing. But in Japan it wasn't popular. People didn't think, oh my God, it's beautiful. They thought, oh my God, you know. And so they started to come out of hiding in the 80s as Americans found them and went, oh hey, we love you. You come to America, we'll worship the ground you walk on. And they're like, dang, somebody appreciates us.
Yeah, I hadn't
you
really
know,
looked at it
thousands
in
of years
respect.
of tradition and training, and finally somebody cares.
Someone looks at it as an art form, not a curse.
Yeah.
You know.
But there's always been tattoo junkies, because that proves out there. And you know, there's photographs of Asians from a long time ago with their full body tattoos and in their hiding. And there's also lots. I have books and books full of old pictures of people from 100 years ago with their tattoos, men and women. Some collectors, some obvious tattoo junkies that just have nice tattoos. They found somebody talented and they get good stuff. And other people just have bizarre collections. Women get some pretty strange things tattooed on them back in the day.
They still
but
do.
all in the name of fun apparently, because it's just kind of fun and
the sweet and the sour. And
okay, but they might have thought, woo.
Yeah, yeah. Things have definitely gotten. I think the standard for racy has risen quite a bit since.
Right.
And also, you've got to keep in mind that there was kind of a big push, from what I know of tattoo history, during the Victorian era, to the point where you had people that were of high station and high class getting tattooed, and then the World Wars started happening, and then it became kind of a commonplace lower class thing, and then that stigma kind of stuck with it. And then
Right, because there's always tattoo fashion, and sometimes it's in, and sometimes I've always been amazed at this ride since the 80s.
Yeah.
Because I have always expected the wave to just kind of crash into the beach and for people to decide that, okay, that's just not cool anymore.
Yeah.
And half the tattooists are going hungry.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really happen.
And you know why I've thought about that before too, because when I got into it, early-ish mid-90s, I was getting into it at a time where you couldn't really find a tattoo magazine anywhere but a porn store.
Yep.
Right.
Yet there was Spalding and National, but that was about it.
Yep.
Outlaw Biker.
Outlaw Biker
and
magazines and stuff. But the magazines, if they showed any boob or bush, then they were considered pornographic. And they had to be sold with a black cover behind the stand.
So
or,
I got pretty lucky in a way that I fell in love with it. I'd be a tattooer whether I was the only one or everybody was one. It just grabbed you, And but so we, and especially you, have tattooed so many people that had kids. Okay, and these kids grow up, and their mom and their dad have tattoos all over the place, and that's only being more true every year since the early '90s, and it really started popping off. So these kids are growing up not seeing a tattoo on a bad guy in a comic book or something like that. They're growing up seeing their grandfather or their father with these tattoos and like, man, my dad's a badass. I gotta get that.
Right.
So it's slowly just kind of eked and soaked into our culture to now where there are so many heavily tattooed people that are raising people. To them, oh, well, my dad's friends, my whole life have been covered in tattoos. Well, obviously, I'm going to go get covered in tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
it's this weird niche. It's not a pair of jeans that kind of wear out and you just don't buy another pair. You got those fuckers, and they're going to be there for your whole life.
Right.
It's not really a fashion. It becomes almost, it puts you into
your personality.
It shifts you in, it shifts you into something, and once you're in there, it's a part of your life and who you are. And if your kids are coming from you, it's going to be a part of their life.
It's like it's
Right.
almost becoming a heritage.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I know you've
Yeah.
experienced, like, with piercing, I experienced, like, yeah, I've done, that guy, and then I've done his daughter, and now I'm doing the granddaughter and
Absolutely.
grandson.
I love
Yeah.
that.
And it's like it's just part of their life now. It's part
Yeah.
of their culture. It's part of their story as a family.
Well, yeah, I think being a tattoo junkie is just like it. It's just like being anything else. It's just what you do. Some people like to run. Some people like to get tattooed.
Yeah.
Some people like to, drive cars, whatever.
And how many,
Everybody needs a hobby.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for me, it's kind of a hobby status because I do it for myself.
Yeah.
And I do it because I enjoy it, and I
Right.
do as much or as little as I feel like.
Yep.
And I don't really do it for any other reason. So, but
And that's the way I feel too.
it's just kind of that.
I would tattoo if I didn't have to make money or if I didn't have bills or whatever. I would still tattoo.
Oh, I would
I
definitely
don't do it because
tattoo.
I have to do it.
No, I love to. I
I-
love to do tattoos, but I love to get tattooed. See, for me, getting tattooed is the hobby status. I think the
used
people that
to.
get them, I think it's a hobby status. When you're a tattooer, they expect you to have a certain amount of
Right,
tattoos,
very
and if
true.
you don't, people think something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Which that wasn't a problem for me because the first time I saw a picture of a circus lady with all her tattoos,
Yeah, you're
I'm
like,
yeah,
I want
that's
that.
me. I want to do that.
Getting back though to when we were talking about families and how you've been you pierced their dad and now the kid and all that stuff. I've noticed that a lot, especially over the last 5 or so years because of just the length I think I've been in the business. Now there's people that were 18 when I'm tattooing
Right.
number 28 and
You
30,
bet.
and now their kids are getting to that age where they're getting tattooed. So I know I hear occasionally, here's my kid. I told them they're not going to anybody but you for their first tattoo, and da 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 da. I imagine that has to be just even more so for you. What do you think about that?
And it's kind of. It's funny because, tattoo junkie families where I've done, the parents and the children and the grandchildren, and some of them I'm getting into like the 4th generation of the family, which is fun. And it's funny because a lot of them will drag the kid in. You have to go to Sherry to get your first one. Well, that's fine. I do the first one, and then they go find their other tattoo artist that's for them.
Yeah.
And I always have to tell the parents, because the parents and the grandparents don't, well, you did all ours, and, blah, 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 they need to do this. And it's like, these kids don't want to get tattooed by their grandparents' tattoo artist. They want to go to some young hip guy and get tattooed. And I don't find that offensive, because we were all young once. We know what it feels like. It's like, now their grandparents don't want to go to anybody else. They just want to come to me and only me because I've been doing that for 30 years for them.
Yeah.
They've never even been to anybody else.
Right.
They'd feel weird. And that's fine. It's just like your doctor, your dentist, your massage therapist, the lady that paints your toenails, whatever. You have your favorites, and you use them for whatever the reason is, and that's fine. But they got to let it go with these poor young kids. And just let them, I don't mind doing their first one because I know I'll take care of them and I won't let them do anything too stupid.
Right, and
the other thing is though that sometimes I'm in their corner because mom and dad would be like, "Well, he wants this," and I think that's just dumb. And the kid looks at you, and I'm like, "That's what you want to do."
Right.
And then the kid's like, "Yes."
Right. I think part of it too for the parents is like, and what I've heard from a couple of them is, well, if they go somewhere else after this, fine. At least I know they'll know what a good tattoo shop is and what a good tattoo is. And then after this, it's kind of their fault.
Yep.
So they want to give them that, okay, this is kind of what it should be like.
I always tell the parents to tell the kid
point.
that they will buy them their first tattoo when they turn 18, when they graduate high school, whatever the deal is on that. And because in hopes that the kid will wait until they're 18.
Sure.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because what's worse is, a 16-year-old gets a big head of steam and a couple cans of beer in him, and then something really stupid happens. And we've all seen that stupidity, and it's like, yeah, that's $1,000 cover-up, buddy. And it still ain't going to look great. You know?
So do you think, then I would think then you're a proponent or totally back the 18-year law then? And not having parental consent?
No, I do not agree with parental consent. They should just be 18 or
right.
16
So,
or 20.
so in the state of
Personally,
Iowa,
I'd just soon not tattoo anybody under 25.
right?
Yeah.
Well, to let
Mind,
everybody.
if I was making the rules, and
Think about it a few
no
more
offense
years,
to young
yep.
people,
Right.
it's not about your ideas. It's not about your immaturity
Yeah, it is.
mentally. It's about your immaturity physically. Your skin is young, and when you get tattooed when you're younger, those tattoos do not hold up as well as if you would wait a few years. Then when you get tattooed when you're a little older and you're 23, 24, those tattoos hold up better. You do make better decisions about things, hopefully.
Hopefully.
And and so not wanting to tattoo young people has everything to do with their baby skin, which is annoying to us tattoo artists.
Right, and so
And
everybody
on
knows.
the other end of that scale is my 70-year-old customers. God bless them. I love them all, but their skin
Right?
sucks.
Yes. Yeah. There's a sweet spot in the middle, but on the ends it sucks.
25 to 65, go for it.
Come on
But,
in.
Before
Yeah.
and after that, let it go.
Right.
It's ironic because I got most of my work done before I was 25.
Lotion all your life.
Right. Well, so everybody knows
Drink lots of water.
you have to be 18 in the state of Iowa to get tattooed. There is no law on piercing. It's up to the discretion of the piercer, and there is no parental consent law either. So you can't be 16 or even 17 and a half and say, "Hey, my mom and dad say it's okay." That might be all well, but as far as the state's concerned, you're not old enough, and your parents don't have the legal right to say you are.
Did they remove the emancipation through marriage nonsense?
I have run into that so little. Maybe
I've
once
never
in my
had
life.
anybody ever come and go,
I
look,
don't know.
I was emancipated through
yeah.
marriage.
Right.
In order to be emancipated is a pretty hairy deal. You'll probably
it-
turn 18 before that happens.
Right.
But it doesn't even
You know.
say, it doesn't say emancipation, because that doesn't count. It
No,
says,
through
it
marriage.
used to say through marriage.
Through marriage. So, and
So
I
if
have
you
to
get that
admit,
child bride,
Yeah.
and there again, it's difficult to get married if you're not 18.
yes.
Because that requires certain things to happen, and you will probably turn 18 before
It's a
those
very
So
things
weird
wonder
happen.
if they just threw that in there to shut up all the kids. That's
Back
probably
in the
what it
day-
was.
But why do they care what kids say?
I think they were just covering their butt. And
Yeah, maybe.
they didn't make these rules till the 90s, which is kind of funny. Although I'm sure they spent most of the 80s trying to figure out what to do about them. They didn't go into effect until 90. But I'm sure a lot of that was just left over because even in the 80s, it was still not unusual for teenagers to get married.
Yeah.
That's true. It has
Yes.
With
changed
parental
a bit.
consent. And once you're married, then you're considered a legal adult, even if you're only 16.
Yeah.
So,
Good point, yeah.
Could have
but-
been.
so I suppose they were just covering their butt in the case of.
Yeah.
But these days, people don't do that anymore.
No.
So.
Right.
Hopefully they start marrying later, because that seems to be the mistake a majority of the people I know my age did.
Well, you'd have to put down the controller and get off the couch and.
Go out and meet people. It's fun. You know how to be social,
tattooed.
enjoy people.
Well, let's take a break. Let's take a pee break, and then let's come back and talk about kind of the technical side of things, about how our machines and maybe our
Okay.
pigments and stuff have changed,
Well,
and how
you
that's
want to push?
affected.
You want to push the coffee stuff?
Yeah, we could push
Yeah,
coffee stuff.
Coffee is good.
The reason we need to take a break is because I have to piss. Because I've been drinking tons of Death Before Decaf coffee.
Yeah.
Which is a local brand. She's super awesome. You can find her on Instagram, Facebook, all the normal places. Search for Death Before Decaf.
And we will have all that information in the the description section. To go to their website and purchase that stuff.
So purchase some, and it's great as a gift because then you buy more.
Everybody loves the gift of coffee.
And people are
Yes.
more willing to, I think, spend a little money on something if they know they're going to give it to somebody, because they're not just buying coffee, they're buying a little bit of love.
Yeah, plus she has plenty of merch, too.
And I like getting
Ah,
love
yeah,
that I don't
baby.
have to dust.
Yeah, right.
Man, don't even get me started on dust. All right,
You don't
cut.
need more stuff.
Okay, I got to piss. I think we've probably entertained them for pretty long. What do you
Yeah,
think?
I think that'll be that.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's that. Please subscribe, like us if you can, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.